I thought working late would impress my boss. Instead, it made me the perfect target for someone who'd been planning this for months. I started at a small marketing firm 3 months ago, eager to prove myself. My supervisor was clear from day one. The people who stayed late were the ones who got promoted. So I stayed, working until 8 or 9 p.m. most nights. My desk sat in the corner by the window. I'd watch the parking lot empty as evening came, the office growing quieter until only the hum of electronics remained. By 7 p.m., I was always alone. Around my 6th week, I started feeling watched. Not constantly, just during those late evening hours when the building was empty. I'd look up from my screen, certain someone was there, but the office was always deserted. My supervisor began making specific comments each morning. "You were here until 8:43 last night, that's commitment." Or, "Saw you took a break around 7:15, you worked too hard." I'd laughed it off. He was my boss. Of course he kept track of hours. But the precision bothered me. He left at 5 p.m. every day. How did he know these exact times? One morning, I arrived early and really looked at my workspace. That's when I noticed a USB charger in the wall outlet, one I'd never plugged in. I looked closer, and panic hit me as I realized it was a hidden camera. I started checking everything. The wall clock in the break room had a camera behind the glass face. The air vent near the couch had another, a picture frame on the wall. Even the base of the desk lamp. 5 cameras total, all with clear views of where I worked, ate, and rested. I photographed everything but didn't touch a single device. That evening, I stayed late again, acting as if nothing had changed. At 8:35 p.m., an email slid into my inbox, not from my boss's work address, but from an unfamiliar Gmail account. "Still burning the midnight oil? Don't work too hard. Lock up when you leave." It sounded like it was from him, but he'd left at 5 p.m. I'd watched his car pull out of the lot myself. I stared at the air vent above my desk, putting the pieces together. Someone was watching me in real time, and the only person who could have known my exact hours was him. The next morning, I confronted him in his office. I showed him the photos of the cameras. His reaction was flawless: shock, concern, immediate promises to investigate. But his hands never shook. His eyes never widened. He already knew exactly what I was showing him. "These could be building security," he said smoothly. "Let me contact management before you do anything rash." I told him I was calling the police. His expression shifted, just slightly. "That seems extreme. Think about your career." I walked out and called from my desk. As I gathered my things to leave, I glanced back at his office. He was on his phone, speaking urgently. When our eyes met through the glass, he smiled. The police found everything. The cameras I'd documented, the vacant office suite at the end of the hall, set up with monitors and recording equipment. The hard drive containing months of footage, not just of me, but of 2 other women employees who regularly worked late. The recordings showed someone had been zooming in during specific moments, saving screenshots, organizing files by date and person. My folder contained hundreds of images. Within hours, his lawyer arrived, claiming the equipment belonged to building management, that someone was framing him. But the access logs showed someone had been monitoring those feeds during evening hours, always when I worked late. 3 weeks passed. I'd been told not to return to work, that I'd be paid during the investigation. Then my phone rang at 2 a.m. A detective's voice. "Are you alone right now? I need you to lock your doors and stay inside. Officers are on their way." He'd made bail that afternoon. 2 hours ago, someone accessed the company's employee database remotely, pulling home addresses for me and the 2 other women from the recordings. They found his car 4 blocks from where I was staying. The engine was still warm. He wasn't inside. I moved out of state. The company settled with an NDA. I took the money. 2 months later, a package arrived at my parents' house. Inside was a blank flash drive and a note in handwriting I recognized from his old desk messages. "You looked so peaceful when you didn't know I was watching. Do you sleep better now that you do?" The police couldn't prove he sent it. The trial kept getting delayed. The other 2 women stopped cooperating. One left the country, the other changed her name. 14 months later, I work from home. I cover every camera. I check every room. Sometimes I get emails from unknown addresses, always empty. The police traced them to public libraries and coffee shops. Last week, another package came. A Polaroid of my parents' house taken from across the street. My mom's new car in the driveway. On the back, "I hope you're sleeping better these days. The trial starts in 2 months. His lawyers want another delay." I don't sleep anymore. I wait for the next email, the next package, the next proof that he knows where I am. Because no trial or restraining order can stop someone patient enough to wait. And somewhere out there, he's waiting too. The rent was cheap, the landlord seemed nice, and I didn't ask questions about the locked storage room. I should have. I needed affordable housing, and the converted garage was perfect for my budget. The landlord lived in the main house and worked from home. He was polite during the tour, explained everything clearly, and the space itself was decent, small but clean, with a bathroom and kitchenette. He mentioned the storage area attached to the back. "I keep personal items there. There's a door connecting to your space, but I access everything from the outside entrance. You won't even notice it's there." I glanced at the white door he indicated. It looked like part of the wall. I didn't think about it again. My 4th night there, I woke around 2 a.m. to sounds from behind that door. Not loud, just a scraping noise, like furniture being moved across concrete. It lasted about 30 seconds, then stopped. I lay awake listening, but it didn't repeat. In the morning, I told myself I'd imagined it. The next night, same time, I heard footsteps. Slow, deliberate, moving around in that storage space. Then the sound of something mechanical humming to life. I got up and tried the door handle. It turned easily. The door wasn't locked. Morning light came, and the landlord's car pulled out of the driveway. I opened the storage door. The space was cluttered with boxes and old furniture, but there was something off about it. A clear path ran through the dust and debris from the outside entrance directly to where I stood. The path was clean, recently used. On a workbench against the far wall, I saw a laptop partially covered by a tarp. The screen was glowing. I should have left right then. Instead, I walked closer. The laptop showed a split screen, 4 video feeds, all live. My bed, my kitchenette, the bathroom door, the small couch where I'd been sitting the night before. I stepped back, my mind racing. I pulled out my phone and photographed the screen, then quickly returned to my space and started searching. It took 20 minutes to find them. A camera hidden in the smoke detector. Another behind the mirror he'd hung as a welcoming gift when I moved in. One embedded in the base of a lamp. The last disguised inside an electrical outlet cover. I photographed each camera without touching them. Then I packed essentials into a bag, clothes, documents, my laptop. I left everything else. I was halfway to the door when I heard gravel crunching outside. Through the window, I saw his car pulling back into the driveway. He was early. I grabbed my bag and walked out, forcing myself to move normally. We nearly collided at the corner of the garage. "Heading out?" he asked. His tone was friendly, but his eyes scanned my face carefully. "Just running errands," I said. He nodded slowly. "Don't forget you owe me the rest of this month's rent. We can settle up when you get back." I walked to my car, started it, and drove away. In my rearview mirror, I watched him standing there, watching me leave. I drove straight to the police station, showed them the photos, the laptop screen, the cameras, everything. 2 officers followed me back to the property. The landlord seemed confused when he answered the door, then cooperative. He let them search the garage and storage area without resistance. The laptop was gone from the workbench. In its place sat a few paint cans and old tools. The cameras were still there. The officers found them exactly where I'd indicated. But when they checked, none of them had memory cards. No footage, no evidence they'd ever been actively recording. The landlord seemed genuinely shocked. He claimed the previous tenant must have installed them, that he had no idea they were there. He'd never been inside my space except for the initial walkthrough. The storage area, he rarely went in there, just kept old furniture and supplies. The laptop? He had no idea what I was talking about. There was no laptop in the storage area. The officers took a report. They confiscated the cameras for evidence. But without the laptop, without any recordings, there wasn't much they could do. I didn't go back. I stayed with a friend and sent someone to collect my belongings while the police were present. No charges were filed. Without the laptop or recordings, there was no proof. He kept my security deposit, claiming I broke the lease. 3 months later, I saw the listing online. The garage was up for rent again. Same mirror, same lamp. I reported it. They removed it, but it reappeared on a different site a week later. I called the police. Without new evidence, there was nothing they could do. Sometimes I drive past that neighborhood. The garage always looks occupied, different car each time. I want to warn whoever's inside, but I have no proof. Just photos of empty cameras and a report that went nowhere. Last week I got a text from an unknown number. "Hope you're enjoying your new place." I changed my number the next day, but the feeling hasn't left. That somewhere, somehow, I'm still being watched. The apartment was perfect, the rent was affordable, and I never thought to look at my ceiling. That was my mistake. I was 26 when I rented the garden-level studio. Large windows, decent light, quiet building. The landlord rushed through the walkthrough, but everything seemed fine. He mentioned someone lived in the unit directly above mine, a long-term tenant, very quiet. I moved in on a Saturday. By Sunday night I was settled, ready to start my new routine. The creaking started my second week, always late at night, around 11 p.m. A slow, deliberate sound moving across my ceiling from one corner toward my bed, then stopping directly overhead. At first I thought it was normal building sounds, but I started noticing a pattern. The creaking only happened when I was in bed. If I got up to get water or use the bathroom, it stopped immediately. When I returned and settled back in, within minutes it would start again. I tested it one night, got up quickly and moved to the couch. The creaking stopped. I waited 5 minutes, then went back to bed. Less than a minute later, the sound resumed, repositioning itself above me. Someone upstairs was tracking my movements. 3 weeks in, I was lying in bed scrolling through my phone when I noticed something on the ceiling directly above my head. A small hole, barely visible, no bigger than a pencil tip. The plaster around it looked lighter, disturbed. I stood on my bed and examined it closely. The hole went straight through. I could see the faintest trace of light from the apartment above. I grabbed my phone's flashlight and started checking the entire ceiling. 4 more holes. 1 above my bed. 1 angled toward the bathroom. 1 positioned over my closet. 1 above the area where I usually got dressed. Each hole perfectly placed to view different parts of my apartment. I couldn't sleep. The next day I bought an inspection camera, the kind used for looking inside walls. That afternoon, when I knew the upstairs tenant would be at work, I fed the camera through one of the holes. The tiny screen showed a rug positioned over the hole. I angled the camera and pushed further. A camera on a tripod, lens aimed at another hole. I moved to a different hole and tried again. Another tripod, another camera. The entire setup was designed for surveillance, multiple angles covering my entire apartment. I took videos of everything I saw, documenting it all. I called the police, explained what I'd found, what I'd seen. The dispatcher took it seriously, said officers would come immediately. While I waited, I also called my landlord, left a message, sent him photos of the holes. I wanted everything documented. The police arrived within an hour. 2 officers examined the holes, watched my inspection camera footage, took photos. They said they'd need to speak with the upstairs tenant, asked if I wanted to be present when they went up. I said yes. I needed to see this through. We waited in the parking lot. Around 5:30, the upstairs tenant's car pulled in. When he saw the police cruiser, he slowed noticeably before parking. The officers approached him. I stayed back but watched the conversation. His body language shifted from confused to defensive. When one officer gestured toward me, his eyes met mine. The recognition in his face was immediate. He knew I'd discovered what he'd done. They asked to see his apartment. He refused initially, said they needed a warrant. But the officers explained they had video evidence of surveillance equipment visible through holes in my ceiling. Probable cause. He unlocked his door. I followed the officers inside. The apartment smelled stale, like the windows hadn't been opened in months. They went directly to the area above my bedroom. Everything I'd seen through the inspection camera was there. Multiple tripods, multiple cameras with telephoto lenses, all aimed at holes drilled through his floor. Some were still actively positioned, lenses pointing down. One officer began photographing while the other questioned him. How long had this been going on? Where was the footage stored? Were there other tenants recorded? He didn't answer, just stood there silently, staring at nothing. The officers searched for hours, found the cameras and tripods, but no storage devices, no hard drives, no memory cards, nothing. He claimed he was a photographer, old equipment stored in that room. The holes were already there when he moved in. Pure coincidence. Without recordings, there was no proof, insufficient evidence. The case closed. I moved out the next day, found a third-floor apartment in a different building. 3 months later, I drove past my old building, a moving truck outside. Someone new, moving into the garden-level unit. I wanted to stop them, to warn them, but I had no proof. Last month, I got a message on social media. "How's the new place?" I blocked it. 3 days later, another account. "Third floor's nice." The police said there's nothing they can do without threats. Just words, not illegal. New messages started yesterday. No words, just photos of apartment buildings around the city. All garden-level units with large windows. I don't know if he's watching them or just trying to scare me. All I know is that I check my ceiling every night before I sleep, and the creaking I sometimes hear above me. It's probably just my upstairs neighbors. Probably.